But you all, what happens when odds are brought to us? It is the moment that God shines the most. I believe with all of my heart that God, he may not have caused it. I don't believe he caused it, but I believe God is definitely going to benefit the results of it. The fact that our nation is under this economic crisis, the fact that you leaders are under this economic crisis, wherever you are in the world, wherever you are globally, you're under this economic crisis. It simply means this: God is getting ready to show out. Listen, those who have been under-resourced for a while, we have learned how to deal with no resources. Some of y'all who have not been used to not having resources, you're about to lose your mind. But now join the rest of the world in learning how to take a little and make much. So you all, the text tells us some things that I think speak to us. It says, God gives us leaders. He basically gives those in the church who are gifted to do something, whether they be pastors or prophets or evangelists, teachers, evangelists. Those individuals have been placed in the body to do something. They have been placed to equip. The role of leaders should be to equip. But so often, you all, we end up believing that we must hire or staff people to do the work of ministry. That is a totally unbiblical understanding or rendering of this text. We're not to staff more people to do ministry. We are to get individuals on our staff who are equipped to equip others to do ministry. And so those of you all who have staff that have been let go or your resources are few, you ought to be in a good position, because now God is forcing you to realize that it is not about how many staff members you have, how much money is in your budget. It is the wealth of resource and equippers that are on your team that can mobilize your ministry to do real work. It is not how many people on your staff. As a matter of fact, I am the only full-time staff member at our church. But yet, in the midst of being the only full-time staff member in the poorest zip code, in the poorest city, in the poorest state, we have seen more transformation of the people in our congregation and our community than some of you all that have unbelievable staff, unbelievable resources, and listen, hold on, don't clap yet, and binders from every conference. Let me just say something for a minute. How many binders do you need to do ministry? You are bindered out. You've got binders for evangelism, binders for discipleship, binders for children's ministry, binders for the arts ministry, binders for... And all those binders are now on the shelf. I submit today, no more binders, but it's time to be the church and do the work of the kingdom. So, when leaders realize that their primary goal is to equip the body, they become ferociously intent on equipping the body. And what we've done, you all, is that we don't make any excuses for realizing that God's people must be equipped. Now, I thought that I would have a black church because by the way, I'm black. And I've been black my whole life, as far as I remember. And so you all, I assume going to Detroit, Michigan, which is a predominantly African-American city, that being a black pastor and a black city means a black church. But God says, my ways are not your ways, my thoughts are not your thoughts. And listen, please understand that when I say multicultural, I just don't mean two white people. Because usually people say, we got two black people, we're multi-ethnic. Not at all. Not at all. Every single week, God, for some reason, allows us to experience unbelievable growth continually happening multiculturally. And know this, the people that are coming to us, many of them don't even come to Detroit to even watch a Red Wings game or even go downtown to see a Detroit Tigers game, but many of them not only come to worship, but they join the church, and several families have actually moved into the community and relocated their families because of the work that God is doing. You can't tell me what a church that equips people will not do to see change. But realize the challenge. The challenge comes when we have to realize that the job is on us as leaders to make sure that we equip people. What do you do when you get people who've never evangelized? What do you do with people who've never gone into the inner city and done anything? Number one, you guys, you got to realize members must take ownership for the work. members must take ownership for the work. It is not the role of senior leadership to take ownership only. It's not the role of staff members to take membership or take the leadership only or the ownership, but it's also the members themselves that must have ownership of the work. And the way you do that, you all, is to genuinely engage them in the work, to not let them off the hook, but to give them the opportunity to always be connected. You all, we have a thing that we have developed that on Sunday mornings at our church, that is the time that we mobilize. Imagine this scenario. Imagine a final game, whether it be a soccer game. Those of you that are internationally, watching, you guys are big with soccer here. We play football with the helmets and the different stuff, and so it's not the real football like you guys we know, but it's our version. But imagine that big game, whatever that big game is, and you get tickets to that big game, all right? Now, the tickets that you paid were extremely expensive to get in. You get into the game, and when you get in the game, you sit in your seat, you're excited because you paid so much money, such a big price to see the game, and the team comes out. I mean, there's fanfare, there's noise, there's clapping, and the team comes out, and they get in the huddle. And they stay in the huddle for 5 minutes. They stay in the huddle for 15 minutes. They stay in the huddle for 45 minutes. They stay in the huddle for an hour. Then they break and they go home. Somebody is about to play something if I paid that much of a price. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, but every Sunday, all he watches are people who huddle. We huddle at 7 in the morning, we huddle at 11, we come back for midweek huddles, and we never break and play the game. God has called us to not be people that huddle, but those that break and go and play the game.